Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's session, which is a Lunch and Learn series. The Lunch and Learn series is essentially a place where we can learn and grow together. It's a knowledge sharing platform that gives experienced professionals like you or other experienced professionals to share an insight into what works for them at work, or perhaps a project they're working on and they would like to share with other people. So it's not like a normal training whereby you're expected to learn one thing. With a lunch and learn, it's open. The learning experience is very vast in the sense that you're not coming with an expectation, but you're coming to get an insight into what works well for someone else. Okay. So, having said that, this evening, we're going to be looking into Trailhead, mastering Trailhead, how to accelerate your Salesforce learning journey. So, what does that mean? Why do we have this? It's very simple. If you look at the Salesforce ecosystem, it's very vast. And sometimes when you want to get into the career, it can seem very overwhelming. What we're doing at Blackforce is to provide you with the training that you need to grow. But that doesn't mean that we cover everything you need to know. Sometimes we might miss other aspects of the training that you expected to know from a technical point of view, right? So this session, I'm hoping that it will help you to understand how to get started with your independent studies and how to be able to be ahead of the game, ahead of the class, ahead of the facilitator, right? And not just that, how to be able to now learn those clouds that we might not even be teaching in class because there's so many of them and we cannot teach everything in a cohort. So this session is prepared for you to be ahead of the game, okay? Before we start, I need to go onto the Salesforce website and just give you like a very high level summary of what it's all about. There is what they call products in Salesforce. So what are products? Products are the things that probably get you excited about Salesforce. For instance, you've seen Agent Force everywhere. You know, if you look at Salesforce, if you look at Salesforce marketing, everything is about Agent Force, Agent Force, Agent Force. That's a product in Salesforce. Product is a well customized package that you can use out of the box. Okay? You can use it out of the box. Data Cloud is a product that enables you to gather data, streamline data, and be able to make sense out of data. That's Data Cloud. It's a product. Then we have the sales, the service, the marketing cloud. They are all products. So again, Salesforce is a platform that gives you out of the box solutions for certain things. These things are products, which means that if you know the Salesforce objects, if you know the Salesforce fields, if you know how to create a user, if you know how to create a profile, those are administrative stuff like configuration. Once you master those things, then you start building a product. Some people build product by creating an app. Okay? You go to the Salesforce platform and you create an app. That's product that you created yourself. And some people use out of the box products, which is the sales cloud, which you're going to be doing a match, the service cloud, the marketing cloud, which you're going to be doing a special program if you're part of the special program, the commerce cloud, the Tableau, the Slack. They are all products that are created by Salesforce. Then we have what they call the industry. When people ask me, I don't have IT experience, I don't have this, I usually ask, but you've worked before, right? If you've ever worked before, then you have worked in an industry. That industry is now where you capitalize your learning. That industry is where you capitalize your learning. So you don't say, I don't have experience in media or I don't have experience in IT, but you've worked in the school before. If you've worked in the school before, you look for jobs that are using education cloud. Industry is education. Product is education cloud. Look for education cloud somewhere. You'll find it. Okay. Industry is education. I've worked in the oil and gas industry before, energy and utility. I've worked in the bank before, financial services. That would not be your area of specialization. I've worked in the healthcare before, hospital before. You want to walk into healthcare and life sciences. I've worked in manufacturing before. You want to look into manufacturing. I've worked in a non-for-profit before. You want to look into non-for-profit. I've worked in the government sector before. You want to look into the public sector. Salesforce has the industry you need, but don't go about doing everything. You need to now focus. What we're teaching you at Blackforce is to get you started. In actual fact, to have a comprehensive knowledge of Salesforce, you can spend 1 year just learning. But you don't need to spend 1 year learning. You need to get the job first and you learn on the job. So what we teach you is what will get you started on the job. Okay? Now, you know the products, you know the industry. A smart student will be taking notes right now and be saying, well, this is what I'm going to do after this class. This is what I'm going to do for this week. Because I'm giving you the blueprint to success in the Salesforce ecosystem. Master the products. What products can I use based on the industries I have? You can even go down into the industry and see the applicable products for that industry so that when you're looking for jobs, it becomes easier for you to look for jobs. Some people finish the Salesforce and they don't know what job to look for. Whereas there's so many job opportunities, but they don't know what jobs to look for. Why? Because you don't even know the industry that you're good at. So you need to know the industry. You need to know the product. I'll tell you why I'm doing all this. Okay. Then now, there's what they call the learning. If peradventure you came across Salesforce as a result of friends or just randomly because you're using it at work and you want to improve your learning opportunities, this is the official way to come and learn Salesforce. You go to learning on Trailhead. Okay? You go to learning on Trailhead. That's the official way. What we're doing at Blackforce is like we are accelerating your learning. Again, I've been saying this, right? Blackforce is not the only place to learn Salesforce. The only thing we do is we organize the learning so that you can be successful on time. If you're doing this by yourself, it's going to take a long time. If you're doing this independently, it could take a year. If you're doing it as a community that is free community, you might be confused. They'll just keep throwing things at you. I've seen people have Agentor. I've seen people have this. They're just giving you stuff that they feel you should know, but it's not structured. The only reason why you're having a structured training is because everything you're learning at Blackforce is organized and it is iterative, meaning that you start from the basics. You don't say you know Salesforce today or you introduce to Salesforce today and you're doing Agentforce. That's why we're not going to teach you Agentforce just like that. Maybe in April, you learn AI and Agentforce, but the first day of your learning, you don't want to be learning Agentforce. You don't have a business with Agentforce. Your business is admin. Your business is Sales Cloud. Your business is Service Cloud. Because without those fundamentals, you cannot learn Agentforce. Do you get what I mean? So you need to now understand what I call structured learning. Imagine you enrolled into university and they're giving you calculus in your first year. Maybe you do a bit of calculus, but they're giving you fourth year modules in your first year. That's what most people do when they learn Salesforce. But it shouldn't be that way. That's why the platform like Blackforce gives you that opportunity to learn in a structured way. But that's not the only way to learn. That's why we're having this session tonight, to show you the things that you need to do independently. Independently, the things you need to do independently so that you can enjoy the training, so that you can get the best out of the training. Learning on Trailhead, you click on Explore Trailhead. Now, if this is your first time of getting on the Trailhead platform, you will need to do what? you will need to create a credential. Okay? You will need to create a credential. Let me log out of this so that you can see the process of creating a credential. I'm expecting everyone by now should have a credential, obviously. But again, I don't want to assume. That's why we're having this session. That's why I said it's important for those that haven't familiarized themselves with Salesforce to attend this session. Whereas if you already got familiar with Salesforce, you know how to do your certification and the likes, then you don't have to. Okay? But it's always good to learn because you never know what you can get from a learning session. It's just 1 hour session, perhaps 1.5 hours, but it's always good to learn. That's what brought me here. Every time there's an opportunity to learn, I always attend. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to get something that I don't know before. And that little thing I don't know before has gotten me more money than what I already know. Sometimes. Because when I was introduced to Salesforce, I had a full-time job. Doing well. I'm doing well. I was a Java developer. I was doing extremely well. Right? But I was introduced to Salesforce and I was like, I don't know this stuff. Let me learn it. Let me learn Salesforce because I want to know Salesforce. That's the same way some things will come into your life. And you don't ignore those opportunities because you never know what will change your life. Okay? So, if you haven't signed up for Salesforce Trailhead before, this is your opportunity to sign up because you need to sign up. Without signing up, you'll not be able to learn on the Trailhead platform. Okay? So I click on login. But if I don't have an account, I need to click on sign up. Okay? So know the difference. Because I already logged in before, it just kind of like use my session. But if I haven't logged in before, for instance, let me see if I can use this incognito Trailhead. Okay. So incognito is when you're doing things without having your session saved. Okay. So can you see login? I click on login. I click on Trailhead. And now you see you can log in with your Google account. You can log in with your Google account. If you're a Salesforce customer at work, you can log in with your Salesforce credential, or you can log in with your email. So if you're not using Google, you can use email and log in, okay? Or you can sign up. So you don't have to, with Google, you don't need to remember your password because automatically it connects your Google account. But what is the most important thing here? The most important thing here is always use one email address. Always use one email address. Don't use I've seen that a lot with single login. I've seen that a lot at Blackforce, which kind of like questions, whether you're ready for IT revolution. Because IT revolution is about identity. They used to track you everywhere. So if you're using this email for official stuff, use it for official stuff. If you're using this email for Blackforce, use it for Blackforce. If you're using this email for Salesforce, use it for Salesforce. If you don't want an email from anybody, you can ignore them. You can mark them as spam, or you can send emails to a different folder. So you check them at your own time. But don't have 10 email addresses. For what? You don't need 10 email addresses. You just need to create a rule in your email address such that anytime an email comes from the person you don't like, you send it to a folder. So you don't need to even open that email. It goes right into a folder. Okay? That's just by the side. You click on Google, you automatically create an account. Okay? I'm going to close this. Now that you've created an account, you start wondering, so where do I start from? This stuff is so overwhelming. Where do I go? Where do I start from? First, let me walk you through how Salesforce encourages you to learn. Salesforce is like a platform that kind of like, don't mistake Salesforce with Trailhead. Trailhead is like a learning platform that helps you to learn Salesforce. But don't mistake that with Salesforce.com itself. Salesforce.com itself is a business. Trailhead is just a subsidiary of Salesforce. Do you get what I mean? So whatever you guys are doing in Salesforce, is Salesforce. Whatever you guys are doing in Trailhead is Trailhead. Don't think that the owner of Salesforce is looking at what you're doing in Trailhead. No, they don't care about what you're doing in Trailhead. It's for you to learn. So some people kind of like cherish their Trailhead, which makes it really nice. Okay. But in reality, your Trailhead has nothing to do with your Salesforce. It's like you getting a job and it's like you going to school. If you go to school and get a job, fine. But you can also get a job without going to school. So they are independent and they work closely together. Okay. So now you have an account. I'm going to assume you have an account. There's what they call parts. Okay. There's what they call parts. So if you have an account, you can go to how the Salesforce gives you ranks based on the things you've achieved in Salesforce. If you look at this, when you register an account, you're called a scout. You're scouting. You're looking for opportunities. You're looking for what you want to do. You don't know what you want to do. They call you scout. Now that you take one badge, I'll tell you what badge is. I'll tell you what points is shortly. You take one badge, you take 200 points, you're called hiker. Okay? You're going for hiking, right? You now have done 5 badges and 3,000 points, you're called an explorer. An explorer is someone that is still trying to find their feet. They don't know what they're doing, but they're trying to find their feet. Then you do adventurer when you have 10 badges and 9,000 points. Okay? You do mountaineer when you have 25 badges and 18,000 points. Ranger, which is like a minimum you need to have in Black Force. A minimum for you to qualify for anything. In fact, if you want to collect any reference from me, and you don't have a Ranger, which is 100 badges and 50,000 points, we're not talking. We are not talking. So for you to become a Ranger in Salesforce, you need to have 100 badges and 50,000 points. Then you need to obviously advance anytime. Like Ranger is the minimum because Ranger is what shows that you've learned something. So now, how do you get all these points? How do you get started? You go to learn. Remember, from your Trailhead, or you can type the trailhead.salesforce.com, okay? You go to learn, and they are what are called trails. What are trails? When you go through a road every day, you're creating what they call a path, right? If I go through if I go through this particular road, let's say there's a particular road in front of my house that leads to the park, and I go through that road every day, I'm going to be having steps on that road, right? And that will now create a path to the park. So what does that mean? Anyone that wants to go to the park in future can follow that. Anyone that wants to go to the park in future can follow that. That's what they call a trail. A trail is a path that leads to a particular destination. Now, Salesforce has created a lot of trails. Follow guided learning paths. I want to go to a particular place. I want to learn about profile. I want to learn about roles. You can type it there and say profile. And it's going to give you trails that would help you to understand profiles. I want to learn about Sales Cloud. Type it there, Sales Cloud. It's going to give you trails that will help you to learn about Sales Cloud. Can you see? Learning Sales Cloud Fundamental. 10 hours. You can learn about Sales Cloud before the Sales Cloud starts next month. And that will make you a genius when the Sales Cloud starts. So, did you see what I did? I type in Sales Cloud, and the first thing is a trail on Sales Cloud. Then I see that Salesforce says get hands-on on Trailhead, which is to enable me understand the Trailhead platform. I'm going to show you how to do that shortly. Salesforce user basics. If you've done your admin, chances are you will have done this. But there are some trails that you will have done because you've learned something else in other clouds, like a Salesforce admin. So if you've done it, you see that check mark. Can you see that I completed mine 7 years ago, right? You see that check mark that says you've done it. You see that check mark that says you've done it. Okay? Then explore sales. It will tell you the time that it will take. It tell you the modules in it. And you keep going until you finish. Once you finish, you've completed a trail. But more importantly, if you finish a particular session like this, you've gotten a badge. Okay? You've gotten a badge. And once you get a badge, it is towards your rank. Remember, you need to have at least 1 badge, 5 badge, 10 badges, 100 badges. Okay? So going back to Learning Sales Cloud, this is the official Salesforce trails for Sales Cloud. When you see this kind of stuff, you can read more and see who created this stuff. Okay? You can see who created this stuff, and it's nice because it looks like it's a Salesforce thing.